Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our AFC Championship recap. I'm your host, Jim Sella, here with Jay Dash. The Pittsburgh Steelers got shellacked by the New England Patriots, 36-17. It really wasn't even close. Pittsburgh struggled to put points on the board. They struggled in the red zone. They couldn't run the football after Le'Veon Bell got hurt. Roethlisberger had a little bit of a good game, but the biggest thing is they couldn't stop Tom Brady, and we were worried about that coming into the game. That zone defense really, it doesn't work against Brady, but I don't think the Steelers had the right type of people to play man coverage either, so I think they did the best that they could, and it just really wasn't good enough.
The problem really was they weren't getting to the quarterback. They still weren't blitzing enough as well. They were just playing that zone and letting Tom Brady take pretty much all the time he wanted.
What was up with Chris Hogan? Why did he become a superstar already? Is Willie Gay really that bad right now? Because it seemed like he was 15 yards behind Chris Hogan on every single play.
Yeah, and it wasn't just him. It really seemed like they didn't understand that he was a football player in this game. They didn't want to cover him at all. Again, it has to do somewhat with the zone coverage. Brady read that very well. But, I mean, there was nobody trying to cover this guy. It was just ridiculous. And, I mean, the problem started early for the Steelers, even before the game. Obviously, someone pulling the fire alarm sucked for him. But then they decided not to dress DeMarcus Ayers. That was ridiculous to me. They decided Sammy Coates was a guy that could come up and make an impact in his game after not making an impact over, the last 3.5, 4 months, which was surprising to me. I think they ended up dressing Fitzgerald Toussaint over him, which I wouldn't have done. Now, Le'Veon did go down. They said he's had problems prior to the week, and maybe that's why they dressed Toussaint, but they still had Gilbert you could have not dressed. I don't see why you don't dress DeMarcus Ayers.
Yeah, he really had been one of the young wide receivers that had come on as of late, him and Eli Rogers. And speaking of these young receivers, was the stage too big for these young guys? Because they had something like 5 drops against New England.
Again, some of that was Sammy Coates. So on the first drive of the game, it was 3rd and 1. I would have just tried to get that first down and keep driving instead of going for the big play. Now, it could have worked out. It was a good pass. He had the defender beat, but he alligator armed it, is what they call it, correct?
Believe it.
So, I don't know. To me, I didn't expect anything out of him. Now, Kobe Hamilton dropped a touchdown pass as well, and he really hasn't done that since he came in. He hasn't done big things or anything, but he's been pretty reliable when you throw him the ball. So he dropped a pass. What else happened? Eli Rogers fumbled a ball. He was actually having a pretty good game, though, so I'm not going to just hate on him. He was having a good game until he did fumble there, but that was a huge fumble that set New England up for more points. But even that deep ball that Big Ben threw an interception on, man, that wasn't a good pass at all. So it wasn't just the young guys making mistakes out there. Really, nobody came to play in this game.
Who was the receiver that stepped out of the end zone and got the touchdown called away? Was that Kobe?
It was either Kobe or Sammy Coates. I can't remember.
I think it was Kobe Hamilton, because I don't think Sammy Coates has caught anything in like the last 25 weeks.
Very well possible, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's just so many mistakes in this game. And again, like I said, defensively, they decided Chris Hogan wasn't even worth covering.
Why were the Steelers so surprised by the no-huddle offense of the Patriots? I know they haven't used it exclusively this year, but they did use it a few weeks ago against Baltimore, which, Baltimore and Pittsburgh's teams are pretty similar. They've used it against Pittsburgh a million times in the past. Just because they haven't used it this year, they didn't really need it then. They knew that it would be a mismatch with Pittsburgh's defense, so why were they not prepared for it?
Who knows? They weren't prepared for anything in this game, man. I don't even have an answer for you. Who knows why they weren't prepared? They look like they did in week 1 2 years ago, pretty much.
Chris Hogan was basically the Rob Gronkowski in this game. Nobody covered him. He was wide open every single time he ran out there. Half the time, they were confused as to who should be covering him.
Yeah, I mean, New England ran the ball 27 times, and Pittsburgh did a pretty good job at stopping the run. Now, I know LeGarrette Blount got in the end zone, but 27 carries for 57 yards. That's a 2.1 yard per carry average. So they did a pretty good job against the run overall. But Tom Brady was just picking this defense apart. And to me, it had to do with just not getting to him. I know Javon Hargrave had a sack. I think it was the second drive of the game for New England. But really, again, they were just rushing 3 or 4 the entire game. They really weren't trying to get after him. They were just playing that zone defense and leaving as many people back as possible, and they still weren't covering Chris Hogan. I don't know what they were thinking in this game, man. So many mistakes. The refs were no help. I'm not going to blame the refs for the loss. They would have lost anyways. But I didn't understand that fumble. Obviously, Pittsburgh recovered it, and then they said it was a fumble, but there was no clear recovery by Pittsburgh. But if you look at now, it's because there was a pile up, and they really didn't see who exactly recovered it immediately. But you can say that on any fumble. If there's a pile up, it should never go the other way because you don't really know who recovered the ball.
Believe it.
So
Thumb somebody in the eye and steal the ball.
There was a couple other plays. There was a pass interference on Jesse James. There was another big play in that game. Jesse James scored that one touchdown, and then it got called back, and they decided not to sneak Ben Roethlisberger, which I would have done. Instead, they tried to run it. They got pushed back 5 yards on 2 plays, and then they had to pass. And then they got into the red zone again later in the game, and it was 1st and goal from the 6 or 7 yard line, something like that. They decided to run D'Angelo Williams 2 times down to the 2 yard line. So now it's 3rd and goal from the 2 yard line, and that's even harder than 3rd and goal from the 7 yard line. You might as well just pass the ball at that point. I don't know, man. They lost it in this game.
A lot of people were screaming that Keith Butler and Mike Tomlin were horribly outcoached by Belichick. I believe that they were outcoached, but I think it was more really just a product of Brady being so good. Belichick did not do amazing things when he was in Cleveland. He was garbage. To me, Brady makes Belichick. Now, Belichick does make great in-game adjustments. He game plans well, but I don't think a coach helps you win as many football games as an elite quarterback like Brady did. So all this talk about fire Tomlin is back, fire Keith Butler, we need to change the defense, blah, blah, blah. The Steelers' defense was the reason they won 9 games in a row. The Steelers' defense is the only reason that they were in the playoffs and 1 game away from the Super Bowl, because the offense was not good down the stretch. You cannot just change your whole defensive philosophy because you can't beat one team. Now, you need to change the philosophy if you meet that team in that game. So you need to be able to do something different in that game. But you can't just completely overhaul your whole team, change to a 4-3 when all the personnel we have is set up for a 3-4 just because you can't beat one team. I'm sorry.
And I really don't think man coverage would have made a difference at all either. But if I was looking at someone to fire, I'd be looking at the other side of the ball with Todd Haley, man. This guy called a terrible game. Like I said, those goal to go.
Well, that 3rd and 2, they had that fade pass to Eli Rogers, one of the lowest percentage plays in football, and they run that there. Like, what the hell were they thinking?
Yeah, they ran at the end of the game, they ran a fade to the back of the end zone. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about. That was just a terrible call. That wasn't really a big deal, though, because the game was over at that point. But like I said, 3rd and 1 on the first drive, you go deep. 3rd and 6 on the second drive, you go deep. And actually, in 4 of their last 5 games, I heard, in the playoffs, they scored less than 20 points.
Yeah, and that's definitely not on the defense.
And I know it hurts. Le'Veon Bell has missed this game and most of the playoffs, so you can look at it without Le'Veon Bell. I mean, that's all you had to do to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is shut down that run game. So many teams have had trouble this season shutting down Le'Veon Bell. And the New England Patriots, everybody's always talking about how they're the team that can shut down your best players, so you got to beat them other ways. Well, when Le'Veon Bell goes out of the game, Antonio Brown becomes your best player. You shut him down. Well, that's all the Steelers are, is Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown offensively. So once Bell was out, it became a lot easier for New England. But again, I'm not going to place the blame straight on Le'Veon Bell coming out of this game. I think they were actually doing a pretty good job against him. 6 carries for 20 yards. That's a 3.3 yard per carry average. Now, I think he would have ended up being better than D'Angelo in this game. But still, I don't think that's the reason why they lost either. But a combination of all these things are definitely why they lost. I mean, they could have won this game. You got to play the perfect game against the New England Patriots, especially this team that has Tom Brady like they did in the past. But this team is the best defense in football this year. So you have to come out and play a perfect game to beat them. And so many things went wrong. So it just wasn't going to happen. And the better team won for sure.
I think losing Le'Veon hurt a lot. Todd Haley's offense, I mean, we've seen it without an elite running back, is nowhere near the same type of offense. And also, it allowed New England to control the clock and hold the ball longer than Pittsburgh. We kept saying it during that winning streak. The defense was really good because the offense was controlling the ball. They weren't having a lot of 3-and-outs. They were getting a lot of long drives, giving that defense time to rest. One of the best ways to beat Tom Brady is to limit the actual number of possessions that Brady gets. And you can do that by running the football and eating up some clock. I'm not as angry or upset with the deep balls on 3rd and short. I know they wanted to be aggressive and they knew that Brady was going to be able to put up points.
Oh, yeah.
I just really think that losing Le'Veon and just not having a running game at all, really, it hurt more than just the offense. It hurt that defense because it put them on the field too long, and Brady was able to expose them.
Yeah, if they could have hit those deep balls early in the game, that could have been a huge boost for Pittsburgh, and this game might have turned out differently. But Sammy Coates wasn't ready. DeMarcus Ayers is a guy you said that's really fast, that can go deep. Now, they really haven't gone deep to him too much, but I'd rather have DeMarcus Ayers in going deep at that point, not Sammy Coates. And I heard his fingers are all messed up again. He's going to have surgery on his fingers again. They knew his fingers were messed up. Why are you dressing this guy? I don't know. I'm just bitching about everything because nothing went right for Pittsburgh in this game. But like I said, the New England Patriots are definitely the better team, and they deserve to win this game.
I asked Easy after the game if he thought it would have been different if we had Martavis Bryant, because having no second receiving option really hurt Pittsburgh, especially once Le'Veon went out. They were able to double and triple team Antonio Brown. And like we said earlier in this episode already, that, the young guys were dropping some balls, just making some bad plays in general, not aware of where they are, out of bounds, stuff like that. Having a second receiving option, even if maybe it was Ladarius Green, if he was healthy, do you think it could have helped change the outcome of this game?
Oh, I'll tell you what, if it was Martavis Bryant at the beginning of the game catching that pass Sammy Coates missed, that could have been a touchdown right there. He'd have probably taken it to the zone. If it would have been Martavis Bryant instead of Kobe Hamilton later in the game when he dropped that touchdown pass, I mean, that's 14 points right there. So, yeah, it definitely could have been a different game if we had that second receiver out there for sure. Definitely considering Martavis is that deep guy, and that's where Ben Roethlisberger and this offense fell short. If they would have hit those deep balls, they threw, 5-6 deep balls in his game. None of them worked. Big Ben threw a terrible pass on one for an interception. We had a couple drop passes on the deep balls that just wasn't working out for him, and that really could have been a difference in this game. And that could have really helped the defense out as well. I think that was the biggest thing in this game is those deep balls. And that's why I'm so upset with them playing Sammy Coates, because he's shown us nothing for so long. They decided to sit a guy that is on the rise in DeMarcus Ayers. It just made no sense to me. But yeah, if it was Martavis Bryant out there, the Pittsburgh probably would have scored around 30 points in this game.
Did the distractions bother Pittsburgh? The AB Facebook post, the fire alarm in the morning, some of the players reported having the flu. Did all those things hurt Pittsburgh? Because you hear Coach Tomlin say things all the time, like good teams overcome obstacles like that. And if Pittsburgh really believes they're a good team, they should have been able to overcome those things.
Yeah, you should be able to overcome some obstacles. But again, a combination of everything. Yeah, it definitely affected him when you combine everything together. The fire alarm, sitting DeMarcus Ayers for no reason, Le'Veon Bell going down, forgetting Chris Hogan's a football player.
Brother.
So, yeah, there's a ton of things here that you can look at. But if you take one of these away, they're still going to lose the game. But like I said, you got to play perfect against New England. So with all that combined, yes, it was all a factor.
As sad as it is to lose in the AFC Championship game, especially to the Patriots, is it a lost season or a successful season for Pittsburgh?
I don't think it's either one necessarily. I wouldn't go as far as say it's successful, but I'm not saying a lost season either. 11-5, you're in the AFC Championship. I know the usually the AFC Championship loser is just forgotten, just like the NFC Championship loser. It's usually forgotten over the years, but it can't be a lost season by any means. They got a lot of young talent here, especially when you look at the defense and how they improved this season. So it's not a loss for sure. I mean, they should just do nothing but get better defensively from here at least. But with the talk of Big Ben retiring, there's a lot of questions offensively, including Martavis Bryant. Is that going to be your second receiver? You're going to have to look outside the organization. You're going to have to look at the draft for a receiver. The same with tight end. Everybody is predicting the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft that Alabama tight end, OJ something. I forget what his last name is right now. I keep thinking OJ McDuffie from the Dolphins from back in the day. But everybody's saying they're going to draft him. I mean, is Ladarius Green going to be okay and healthy for next season? Because if so, I kind of like Jesse James. Jesse James stepped in and played a nice role for Pittsburgh when Ladarius went down, especially here in the playoffs. He did a pretty good job, man. So is it going to be Ladarius and Jesse James next season? If so, I would stay away from a tight end.
Yeah, I don't think they'll draft a tight end. I think that's just people being stupid.
And with Big Ben talking about retirement or whatever, you might have to start thinking about quarterback as well.
Why so much hate on Mike Tomlin? The guy's won somewhere around 103 games. He's never had a losing season. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won one of the Super Bowls. Why is it every time we lose any game at all of a sudden it's fire Tomlin?
Well, I will say I hated the decision to not dress DeMarcus Ayers. I said it 5 times already, but that's a bad decision before the game even starts. But again, the biggest problems to me are offensively, and let me tell you right now, Mike Tomlin has no say offensively. So I really don't see a problem with Tomlin at all.
I don't either. The guy's won, like I said, over 103 games, never had a losing season. Do I agree with every decision he makes? No, but I didn't agree with every decision Cowher made. I mean, me and you have gotten into arguments before. I didn't think Cowher was as good as a coach as some people made him out to be. I thought he was better at player personnel, player evaluation, and, helping develop players than necessarily like a game day coach, because Cowher screwed up all the time during the game. His time management was bad. He had bad play calls. I mean, it happens. And especially when you lose a football game, all those things get out in the spotlight even more. So I think it's just a bunch of dumb yinzers who really don't know anything about football, who just scream, fire this guy, fire that guy, and nobody's blaming Haley at all. It makes no sense. I just don't get it. Todd Haley never even played football. He was a freaking golfer. I just don't understand why people think he's the best coach in Pittsburgh's coaching staff.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Do you think Le'Veon's been hurt for the last couple weeks?
Well, they said he was.
He said he was. I don't think the Steelers have said it yet.
I did see someone from the Steelers came out and said they were aware of it before the game. So.
Well, they better be careful, because Seattle is probably going to be docked a second-round pick because they were not listing Richard Sherman on the injury report during the season. And then at the end of the year, he said he had a knee injury, and Coach Pete Carroll agreed and said publicly he did have a knee injury and was dealing with it throughout the season. So now the NFL's investigating it, and they could lose a draft pick.
I mean, I thought the same thing when they were talking about Le'Veon Bell and how he had it before the game. Like, it just seemed to me like, well, then why wasn't he on the injury report? But whatever, man. I don't care what they do. I don't care at this point, man.
Just makes no sense to me. He ran the ball so well. I just don't see how he was hurt. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he couldn't have been or whatever. It didn't look like it to me. And when I talked to Brandon, I asked if maybe, they could have shot him up with something for those games. But he said in a groin injury, they don't really like to do that. There isn't too many medical staffs that will. It's a very dangerous area. The best you can really do is try to rub some lidocaine on there or whatever, and just kind of go out and deal with the pain. I've heard a lot of people criticizing Le'Veon for not going back into the game. He says he didn't feel like he had a lot of burst. I don't know. It didn't seem like he wasn't running well when he was in there. Like you said, he wasn't getting huge numbers, but it was only a few carries. So I don't know. I think he could have maybe tried to stick it out a little more, but I'm not out there trying to run around with a groin injury. I've hurt my groin before and didn't even want to walk around work when I worked at a restaurant. So I know it hurts.
Well, yeah, it just didn't seem like the Steelers had any urgency at all in this game. Like you just mentioned with Le'Veon Bell, and like I mentioned, the Tomlin thought, hey, Sammy Coates is ready. Why not? Let's play him. Who knows?
Yeah, what was up with that? They kind of went against everything they had done well over the last 9 weeks. I mean, I know you lose Le'Veon and you fell behind a little bit, so you couldn't keep pounding the rock as much as you did. But it just really seemed like they got away from everything that they did. They led the league in sacks during that 9-game winning streak. And as we alluded earlier, they just kind of gave up and didn't really rush Brady at all. The whole game plan just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it seems like they didn't want to win, man.
Honestly, it kind of felt that way. And it sucks.
Who knows? Maybe the NFL's fixed, like a lot of people believe, and the Steelers were just supposed to lay down in this game.
I was talking to some people on social media, and there was a guy who was screaming, "Oh, the Patriots cheated. The Steelers got cheated out of this. This is BS." And I asked him, how did the Patriots cheat? Explain to me how they cheated. And he says something stupid, and then posts the video of when Jesse James was pass interfered with on the sideline, and they didn't call it. Okay. New England got away with a no call. That's not the Patriots' fault. That's the ref's fault for not calling the correct penalty. So I say that to the guy, and he says, well, the Patriots probably paid off the refs. And I said, okay, well, think about this. If the Patriots did pay the refs, then that means most likely all of football is fixed, corrupt, whatever you want to call it. So then that actually devalues the 6 championships that Pittsburgh has won, and that all these yinzers scream about and thump their chest how they're so much better than everybody else because of these 6 Super Bowls. So he was really just devaluing his own franchise. Then he really didn't have much to say after that.
To me, it wouldn't be a big surprise if the NFL was fixed, but I don't think you can go by what penalties were called and were not called in the game and blame it on a team rather than a league.
I agree, and I don't know. I think Steeler fans...
Dude, when Le'Veon went down, everyone that was sitting around me was like, you got to take Tom Brady out. They did that on purpose. I was like, what are you talking about? He fell over and he was hurt. I mean, they did nothing on purpose to hurt Le'Veon Bell. That was ridiculous.
That's it. Because of the Patriots' past transgressions, which they should have been held accountable for, and they were, people just instantly, every time they win now, well, they cheated. They didn't cheat. They were the better team on Sunday. I mean, on paper, Steeler fans, I agreed. I thought that Pittsburgh might have had a little bit of an edge, but you know where the edge really was? The edge was in Tom Brady's arm and his ability to throw quick, accurate passes that just ate the Steelers' defense alive. And honestly, they deserved to win that game, and Pittsburgh did not, just by the way they played. And I hate saying that because I hate New England, but it's just the truth.
It's the year of the Patriots, man.
Best team won on Sunday. It's going to be an interesting Super Bowl. Patriots against the Falcons. Falcons have only been to one Super Bowl. Matt Ryan's had a pretty good year, though. Yeah, Tom Brady really wants to get that trophy and stick it up Goodell's ass for suspending him for those 4 games.
Yeah. Obviously, a 4-game suspension means nothing.
Please believe. All you got to do is go 3-1, and then your quarterback will take you to the Super Bowl. Anything else for the fans?
Who's the player of the game?
Tom Brady.
Yeah, you can't even give it to a Steeler. How about defensively?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Defensively, nobody. I mean, I don't think anybody on our defense really stood out, quite honestly. They stood out and played terrible. Willie Gay got torched.
Lawrence Timmons had 14 tackles.
Yeah, he's a guy I think Pittsburgh should try to bring back on a team-friendly deal. Now, obviously, you don't break the bank for the guy because he's old. But if you can get him for a good price, I'm bringing him back just for the sheer leadership. I think, a lot of the problems is Pittsburgh's almost their whole entire offense is young. I mean, you got Roethlisberger. He's really the only one on offense that's ever been there, to that level where they've been. defensively, at least you had, Willie Gay, James Harrison, Lawrence Timmons. I mean, some of these guys had been there. So it's tough. It was a young, inexperienced team, and I'd like to see that veteran presence in the locker room.
That's about it, man.
Well, sadly, fans, this will be our last Steelers recap of the season.
And maybe ever, correct?
Yeah, we're probably not going to recap the game because nobody listens to it. But next year, we will still have our Steelers preview shows. Keep an eye out this week. Maybe early next week, I'm putting together an end-of-season Steelers episode, kind of recapping the whole year and a little bit of a look forward to 2017. Don't want to get too in-depth into it because, you still got the Super Bowl going on. Draft order's mostly set, but it's still way too early to start doing mock drafts, I'll tell you that. But just kind of talk about the Steelers who are going to be free agents and maybe something, Pittsburgh could do to bring some of them back. But other than that, fans, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Come back to YouTube. Click subscribe. If you're a baseball fan, look for our Pirates coverage, which will be starting soon. Dash, I know how much you love to have baseball.